some reason, every single football romance that I was interested in was a million long wait list. That didn't even make sense, but the wait list was long. So your girl was like, I know that this one is one I enjoyed from this series. I didn't quite enjoy the first one. I did not enjoy the third one. Did not read the fourth one. Wait, are there 4 books in that series? Let's get down to business, as we do my January Wrapped. I can't believe, guys, that it's the end of January. I mean, just the other day it was January 1st. But anyway, I'm really excited to tell you guys about some of these books so you can add them to your TBR, or maybe just maybe not. But anyway, here we go. Really excited. I think I only have positive things to say this time, which is really exciting. The first book is Flight of the Raven. Now this is part of the Ravenwood trilogy, which follows Celine, and she is a dreamwalker. Now when I tell you Celine's family, House of Ravenwood, they are a house of dreamwalkers, but the other 7 kingdoms don't know it. They don't know that their powers still exist, even though the other houses still have their magical, like, avatar-like, or I think one house's powers like wisdom. So it's like, it ranges from like earth, wind, fire to like philosophy and architecture. I think I gave the first book, I read it in December, and I gave the first book 5 stars, and I gave the second and third book, which I finished in January, 4 stars, and I think the last book I'll give 4.2525 as my final ratings for the last 2 books. But basically we follow Celine's journey. It's coming of age story. It is Christian fiction, so there are some heavy themes. If you read C.S. Lewis, he also uses Christian themes, but yet alone I feel like you can still read it and be like, oh, this was a pretty good, like, clean fantasy series. Like, I enjoyed this aspect of like a female villain instead of just like a male villain, and then we also have another theme of the 7 kingdoms and like them trying to get, it's like political intrigue and them trying to gather together to face off the empire, which is an opposing force. So we kind of have the spiritual and this very literal battle going on within this trilogy. I think if you enjoy C.S. Lewis, again, this would be a series for you to check out. All right, moving right on along. Talking about C.S. Lewis, I am rereading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and I am uber excited because I decided I'm not going to read it in the order he wrote them, but read it in the order of just like how the story would go. So I read The Magician's Nephew, and honestly, like, I forgot how quick of a read it is. It took me like 2 hours, I think, to finish it, and if you listen to the audiobook, I think it's like 4 hours, maybe 3 hours to listen to. But basically The Magician's Nephew is the prelude, the precursor, the prologue to how Narnia comes into existence. We meet these 2 young children and the boy's crazy uncle, and they voyage to the world between worlds, and we meet Aslan, and we kind of see how the wardrobe materials came to be. So I definitely recommend checking that out. I love C.S. Lewis, and I also wanted to reread all the series because I think I heard that there are new movies coming out, like a remake of a remake of a remake of a remake. LOL, has anyone seen the BBC version of the Chronicles of Narnia? My mom made me watch that because she's like, this is my version, and I said, oh, okay. I think I still like my version with Prince Caspian because that man is fine. Anyway, next book is Cherished by Kim Cash Tate, and this is women's lit, women's fiction, and it is very Bible. This book, there's no mistaking. There's no mistaking. I gave this book 3 stars. I think I just came in with the wrong expectation on what the book would be like. Also, the age ranges of the characters didn't feel as relatable to me. So it basically follows Kelly and Heather one of them has had an affair, one of them has had a very like troubled youth, and so it kind of shows their coming of age slash their like falling in love story. It's several POVs going on. It's kind of confusing, and the flow is just not as good as it could have been if we just focused on one love story at a time. So I think that's kind of where this book didn't fully fulfill like my preferences, but I still think, again, I think all books are worth to be read, and it's subjective, so you can come to your own opinion. Maybe this is the book for you and you leave really inspired, because I did think there are some things that were inspiring and encouraging about this book still. Really a lot of redeemable quality. The next book I reread is Fumbled Playbook by Alexa Martin. Now, for some reason, every single football romance that I was interested in was a million long wait list. That didn't even make sense, but the wait list was long and I didn't feel like waiting. So your girl was like, I know that this one is one I enjoyed from this series. I didn't quite enjoy the first one. I did not enjoy the third one. Did not read the fourth one. Wait, are there 4 books in this series? Yes, did not read the fourth one, but I did enjoy the second one. So basically it follows it's a second chance romance. It follows Poppy, and TK is her like young love, and they had a son together. TK did not know they had a son together. So basically this follows the journey of TK and Poppy, and do they reconcile, do they not? I'm not going to spoil it for you. You can find out on your own. But I do think it offers interesting commentary on the NFL, on football leagues in general, and also the sport of football for health reasons, like is it safe, but then also it has themes on womanhood and friendship, and I don't know, I just quite enjoy it. I gave it initially 3 stars when I first read it, but I think I'm gonna for it, and I think my final rating will now be like 4.25. The next one is I've Been to the Mountaintop, the unabridged selection from A Call to Conscience, landmark speeches of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Now, as we know, Dr. King's birthday is in January, and so I wanted to read words he said. That is something that I have been trying to put into practice. Like, it's great that we read biographies and autobiographies and memoirs, yes, but also really hearing what the people were saying in their speeches, like these prolific individuals. So I wanted to read this speech, and boy oh boy did it make me sob like a little baby. I read it and then I listened to it, and it's just powerful stuff. So grateful for the legacy he left. I definitely am going to be reading longer books about his life, and I want to read some things about Miss Coretta. She ain't no diva. What you say? She ain't no diva. Thing is Concentrate, which is by Courtney Faye Taylor, and this is a collection of poems. For me, poetry is one of those genres that is still a little, so sorry about the planes. Poetry is still one of those genres that is it is so, reading is subjective as a whole, but poetry is like so subjective, because if you're reading like facts, like, okay, we can still understand that there's a world around these facts, but usually the facts are the facts, and like we can understand the context of those things to, you know, validate those facts. But with poetry, sometimes it's just like the author could mean one thing, but then when you read it in a certain time it can mean another thing, or when you read it you know, when it just comes out, it can mean one thing and then it's ever changing, or the poet says something that changes it, or you, from your personal experience, you read it as such way, and then all these things are valid when you're reading the one thing. It's a lot. I took a class of poetry and I was like, this is so much. But it was a very powerful piece. I don't have a rating for it yet, because some of it, I did read it on my Kindle, and so that's the one thing that I'm like, how can these books that provide like these many different forms of like art and storytelling and form within their poetry books, how does that relate or come across when you're reading it on a digital platform. Like, and it leads to the question, like, is this a book that can only be read, you know, in physical form? Because sometimes the I don't know what it's supposed to look like. Like, I've never read the book before, right? So I don't have anything to compare it to. And sometimes they'll offer you the size dimensions to help it work, but other times they don't. And so sometimes it was a little confusing reading the book, but the contents overall were powerful. So I don't have a rating. I do think you should check it out because I think it offers an interesting commentary. It's definitely a book that I will have to reread. The next is Lore of the Wilds. When I first saw the cover, I was like, ooh, 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 ooh. Really, 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 really enjoyed it. I'm just gonna read my thoughts on this. The Lore of the Wilds is a fresh first debut from author Annalise Sabrina. I was uber excited to read this book, mainly due to the fabulous illustrations on the cover. Like many, I love BIPOC fantasies, especially ones with black fake characters. The world within this book feels fun and whimsical. I thoroughly enjoyed the Enchanted Library and the cast of diverse characters. Unfortunately, I did not connect with the MCs as strongly as I had hoped, and the pacing sometimes felt a little too slow and other times too rushed. After concluding this book, my expectations for content were skewed because of my preconceived notion that I was reading a new adult fiction book, when in reality, The Lore of the Wilds gives very YA readers, a YA reader's book, and not quite new adult. But yes, so I'm really grateful for the arc that I got from NetGalley to read this book. And I ended up giving it 3 stars. I do think you should definitely still go check it out, because we need more books featuring black fae characters, period. But I just didn't connect with it as much as I hoped I would. But I still think go buy the book, because definitely there's an audience, and many other people loved and enjoyed the book, so you may too. The next book that I have is, the next 2 books are both Christian books that deal with trauma. The first one is Forgiveness After Trauma, A Path to Finding Healing and Empowerment. And this is by Susanna Griffith. And I'm gonna read some of my review that I already wrote because I think it was pretty good. It's pretty short. But I said Miss Susanna Griffith's raw and honest exploration of trauma-informed forgiveness is refreshing and sobering. She offers a very astute, biblically based analysis of forgiveness after trauma, lament, forgiveness, anger, healing, and resilience. Readers who want a realistic yet Christian take on forgiveness will leave this book feeling encouraged. I also think that her text challenges flawed Christian ideologies and false narratives around the topics of forgiveness, especially regarding marriage and divorce. And then one of the most memorable quotes from her book is, sometimes we do face situations that feel too much to handle when we wish we could take all the pain away. Yet sometimes we stand and deliver. Sometimes we rise strong and triumphant from the pain. Sometimes hope is born. When I say this book is a lot, it's a lot. Definitely trigger warning for sure, because it deals with abuse and domestic violence. But I do think that people in pastoral care, people who are into counseling, people who just also want to understand a different take on forgiveness, when it involves a trauma like that, should read this book. Yes, I think it's, again, yes, so just check it out for yourself. The next one is by Miss Jeannie Allen herself, the icon, and it is Untangle Your Emotions, Naming What You Feel and Knowing What to Do About It. Something about her is that she knows how to write well. She knows how to, she knows who her audience is, and she knows how to capture biblical truths in a very profound, clear, and right on the target way. And so I think that's why a lot of her books do well. This one, 2 quotes that I really loved were, 1, let me be clear, you will never be emotionally healthy outside of the will of God. She just came for me. She just came for you too. So let's get it together, sis. And the next one is, feelings were never meant to be fixed. Feelings are meant to be felt. And I put in my little review, sis, go buy the book. Yeah. But anyway, I think this is a really good, there's this like visual of your emotions go up and up and up and down, up and down, up and down, but then God is like, yeah, but your emotions go up and down, up and down, up and down. Sometimes you don't feel him, but he's still like consistent. And so I feel like this book did a good job of kind of explaining that correlation. Now, as a Black woman, there's things that cause my emotions to feel emotions, and I feel like that wasn't addressed, but I don't expect her to address that, so we need somebody else to write that book. But I do think she did a good job of offering practical and spiritual recommendations. I do wish that in some of her other books she has had more scriptural references and application, and that just felt like it was missing a little bit. This felt definitely more like a Brene Brown book versus her, like the normal Jeannie Allen book we get that has like a lot of scripture sometimes. But I did still think it was a good read, and my final rating was 4.75 for it, so I do still think you should go check it out. And this one comes out February 13th, so yeah, it's coming out soon, so you definitely should go buy it. And that is my January wrap up. Thank you so much for listening to me. What did you guys read this January? What is on your TBR for February, Black History Month? I'm so excited. I have some great recs coming at you. I'm so excited. But yeah, so make sure you stay bookish, stay Black, and stay blessed, and I shall see you guys next time.